Hi, Lauren Anstey from the Center for Teaching and Learning here. This video is going to quickly orient you to embedding Google Drive material in onQ. So why take this approach? A quick slide and explanation on that. And then two important steps: creating your materials in Google Drive and then adding them to your onQ site. This will be the focus of this video and tutorial. So, as you may know, the Google Suite is actually comprised of various tools which can be used in different ways for supporting teaching and learning. And I wanted to quickly review some of those to give you a sense as to the scope of the ways in which this can be used. So Google is great in that it's collaborative and oftentimes anonymous contributions that can be added to different ways of engaging with materials. So Google Docs allows for the creation of a collaborative document that could be used as a space for Q&A, so for example in fielding some frequently asked questions about the course. Possibly for any sort of sign-up or creating groups, or even for sharing ideas and reflections. And this is often how I've used it. So for example, having students contribute some of their brainstorming in a single place where everyone can add and everyone can see what is being generated. Collaborative slide decks can be created in Google Slides. So I've used this in the past to ask students to share a visual that we're going to build up a portfolio of different contributions and use that as a presentation or as material to discuss. Google Forms is a survey tool, so very similar to what's available actually in onQ directly, the onQ Surveys platform. Or in Microsoft with its Forms tool, or even in Qualtrics. But I find that once I get used to the Google platform, sometimes I prefer to use Forms and use this for quick surveys. So get to know students, to have them complete maybe an exit ticket, so a quick question as they are ending a lesson or a week. And one of the examples of that is the muddiest point. So asking what remains unclear or confusing that you can then follow up with in the following week to clarify and elaborate on, to check in on students' learning. Google Sheets is synonymous to Microsoft Excel, so it could be used to create a collaborative data set. I know instructors who ask students to go out and collect a data point and ask the students then to contribute that data point to a growing data set, and then this set could be used in whatever way is appropriate, having students manipulate the data or using this as the set that you're going to demonstrate some data analysis with. So I am logged into my own Google Drive account and I have set up two sample materials, a sample Google Doc and a sample Google Form. For those unfamiliar with Google Drive, this is a very quick tutorial, click on the plus and be selecting the forms of creation here. So if it's Google Docs, you're selecting this option, for example. And it basically sets you up with a page. So here's my sample Q&A, and this is demonstrating the use of Google Docs in order to have a place where students can add their questions. Students might add their questions here, and then you're going to go in and answer them here. So it's a place to build that frequently asked questions page. In terms of a sample form, here's an example of the muddiest point that I've set up. So a quick title, muddiest point, and the question, after this week's lesson, what remains unclear or confusing. And I've changed it. There's various options here for the type of survey question that it is, but because it's meant to be students' text answer, then I've selected paragraph. And this could be as long as you want. For me, it's just this single question. One last step to consider before we move on to embedding and onQ is the privacy setting for the materials in Google Drive. This is important for the Google Doc, for Google Slides, anything where you want students to have editing control of the material. So before you move on to onQ, click Share, and right now what you want to see is that anyone with the link can edit. The default is typically that anyone with a link can view, so you want to change that to editor permission. Once you've done that, you can move over into onQ. I will note that it is not so important for a form, as by nature it is meant to be something that someone completes and engages in. So it doesn't need to have the same permission settings changed on it as the Google Docs or Google Slides, and even the Google Sheets material as well. So the first step in embedding the material into onQ is, of course, to decide which course site it's going to and to head to that spot. So I'm going to use my sandbox and navigate to content and use the table of contents to go to the place where I want to embed. I could put that Google material either in a module or a submodule, anywhere where there's this button to add existing activities. I'm going to add it to my submodule. I click on the button and select Google Drive. If this is the first time you've done it, you'll need to log in, but this will give you access to your Google Drive account, and you just want to navigate then to the material that you've created. So first I will talk about adding the Google Doc, the sample Q&A sheet, and in a moment I will demonstrate the sample form. So I click on the Q&A sheet and hit select, and it adds it right into that. As an instructor, I can click to see what that looks like, and you'll see how it's embedded right on the page. The process is very similar for the form. I click existing activities, select Google Drive, navigate to the folder or the material that I want to embed, and click select. And you can see once again that it has been added directly onto the page where the person who's working through this can add their answer right in onQ without leaving. So the last thing I'll quickly do is show you what it looks like from the student perspective. For someone who's not logged into a Google Drive account. So if I switch browsers where I'm not logged in to Google Drive, and right now you can see I'm viewing as a student, so I don't have my instructor access at this point. And I go to the place where I've embedded those materials. Then you'll notice that when I click on the sample Q&A sheet, I'm not signed in. The instructor is actually here because I'm in it in the other browser. But I can add my question to this page and actually edit and add to this sheet, whatever it is it's prompting students to do. This is why I always suggest having the instructions built right into the page. Moving on to the Google form, here's the muddiest point where I'm going to provide my answer to what remains unclear or confusing. If I return then to my instructor view, you can see how my response has already been documented, the student who just replied. And if I go into the Google document, here's where the student had written a question, and now from this instructor's perspective, I can provide my response. Thanks for watching. I hope this video has given you some ideas as to how to use Google Drive within onQ to support some of your course learning activities.